Oh, no, there we go. So level 1 nodes. So what are level 1 nodes? They are the outermost nodes in Saturn. Uh, they have a per-region hubs. Think of North America, South America, Europe. They are accessed via GeoDNS, as Ansgar mentioned. They serve car files via HTTP2 with TLS using Nginx. Why change what's already working, right? And they fetch car files from level 2 or greater nodes on cache in case they don't have it like readily available. And in exchange for those retrievals, you earn Filecoin, right? Amazing. So in this diagram, we see the retrieval clients fetching through HTTP car files from the level 1 nodes, which in the V0 implementation, if they don't have it, they just go to the IPFS gateway. How does the sign-up happens? We'll go through that on the registration with the orchestrator, which uses route 53 for the GeoDNS setup. It also contacts a log service to send how many retrievals have there been made for which CIDs and from which clients. And there's also the last part, which is the fraud detection. We don't want to pay you if you're faking those retrievals. So what goes inside a level 1 node? We have a big Docker image that runs Nginx and a Node.js process. This Node.js process pretty much handles the cache miss, which context level 2s. It has the log ingester, which consumes logs from Nginx in a specific format, and it just throws them to the log service. We also have the registration part, which pretty much allows to contact the orchestrator. Hey, I want to be part of the network. Set me up. Give me a TLS certificate and join my IP to the DNS records in my region. There's the registration check. It's just a tiny endpoint so that whenever there's a sign up, we want to make sure that you do own that gateway, that level 1 node, and that it matches. And there's a health check every minute. If you, for whatever reason, go offline, we'll remove you from the network and hopefully not affect any users. And there's reputation on that. The greater uptime you have, the more traffic you will get. And outside that Docker image, we have the auto updater, which will keep your Docker image up to update, and we'll check the registry for newer versions in an interval. So what's the setup like? We have hardware requirements for the level 1 nodes. You need a Linux server with a public IP. Ideally, you have 100 gigabits per second, but the minimum is going to be 100 megabytes. You have 2 gigabytes of RAM. That covers most of desktop servers, BPS, but 8 gigabytes or more are recommended. The minimum disk is going to be 128 gigabytes of SSD, but ideally you have a great setup of RAID 0 NVMe SSDs that are 2 terabytes or more. In the footnotes, you can see that the more you can serve, so the greater upload speed you have, the more Filecoin earnings you get. And the bigger disk, it means bigger cache. That also means greater Filecoin earnings. Some general requirements before you can even set up a node, you have to have a Filecoin wallet address and 10 minutes. And hopefully that will be like 1 minute in the future. So how does the registration happen? When you set up this Docker image, you bring it to your BPS, your dedicated server, your Raspberry Pi at home, and you say you want to become part of the network. So the initial steps, it pings the orchestrator, who will go back to you in the public IP that you're coming from and verify that you own that node ID, and will give you a token. You have to persist the TLS certificate that the orchestrator gives you on demand. You will join the geolocated DNS. So if you're coming from Florida, you are going to be serving requests in Florida. If there's no nodes in Georgia, for example, you're also going to be a point of presence for that traffic. Lastly, you will receive a token, so you can send the logs back to the log service, and you re-register every 5 minutes and have that token refreshed. In order to have smooth transitions or blips in the network, you should be doing a graceful registration as to not kill active requests. So there's a graceful registration process, which you let the orchestrator know that you are going offline for maintenance or just updating the Docker image itself. You leave the DNS for that region. You gracefully finish the active retrievals, and then you shut down. If you don't, then you have a hit in your reputation. So what are the responsibilities with the network of the level 1 nodes? The first is the registration, where you get the TLS certificate and the DNS setup so you can start getting requests. There's a continued re-registration plus the health checks to verify that you're still online, you're still serving content, and answering those retrievals, which, as Ansgar mentioned, they are through CIDs. You want to maximize cache content. That means the greater Filecoin earnings. You have to fetch CIDs in case you don't have the content readily available from the level 2 or greater nodes. And you have to continuously verify all the blocks that are coming from those providers, because also you don't trust them. You have to report the retrievals to the log service. That's done on an interval of 5 minutes. And you also report the load and the bandwidth that you have. So you can either receive more requests or we send you less requests. And updating. The Docker image should be kept updated. If it goes out of date for more than 24 hours, you get removed from the network. And the TLS certificate is renewed every 85 days, just under the threshold of expiry. And earning, which is the most interesting thing. With the log ingestion, the Nginx logs are parsed, aggregated in batches, and sent to the log service using the token that the orchestrator has provided. And Filecoin will be delivered to your wallet address in a daily basis. We hope to be launching V0 soon in the test network that we have on testing, not production testing, but and mainnet hopefully coming in a few months. Thank you. Any questions?
Nice, thanks, Diego. Yeah, I've got one to start off with. You mentioned that the orchestrator is giving a TLS certificate to each of the L1 nodes.
That's correct.
Have you looked at any ideas about how the certificate management could be more decentralized?
We haven't yet. Right now, as everyone is joining pretty much the same DNS record, which is cdn.saturn.network, everyone has to have a verified TLS certificate. And sadly, that's not decentralized. Everyone could ping, for example, Let's Encrypt or such options. But then it would be much more slower. And the DNS verification of that part would not be able to be completely decentralized yet. We just haven't researched on that.
Nice, thanks. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, on one of the first slides where you have, I think it's the first one. Yeah, you're talking about car files there, that the car file gets requested from the client, right? What happens with these car files once they're like sent back?
In the retrieval clients.
Yeah.
So retrieval clients start consuming the bytes and continuously verify all the blocks, which is one of the advantages of CIDs. And that's done on the service worker.
Okay, but normally the file that the client would request would be like a JPEG or whatever, or video, which would be something completely else.
Yeah, so the service worker grabs that car file and pretty much unpacks it. While continuously verifying the blocks, it will then render the JPEG or PNG or the video that you have. Yeah.
All right, another question at the back.
Yeah, thanks. This talk is really useful. One question, I think the goal of using Nginx there as a cache layer is a really good idea. I was wondering if you could expand more as like the trade-offs there and so on. I think it's a very good design decision, and I think other people should hear about it.
Decisions that were made? Or
Yeah, like just talk about like why Nginx, in that's a really good idea, but just kind of like help unpack for other folks watching.
Of course, so Nginx was chosen especially because it's a tested solution that's open source. And I've worked with it a lot through the years. That was my go-to. I guess we could go with Varnish or other solutions, but Nginx is proven and tested, battle tested across a lot of internet services. Anything else you would like for me to dive? Yeah. All right.
Any other questions?
Well, feel free to reach out to me on any social network or Diego at protocol.ai, and I will answer any questions that you might have.